gonna get a minute to let some people come into this workshop. It's gonna be about a half hour. So all you really need for this workshop is a yoga mat. If you want to feel a little bit more comfortable, you can set up near a wall. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and get started. All right, so one of the things as a yoga instructor that probably makes me personally the most angry is when I'm seeing a student improperly do a headstand. And that is because there is the potential for injury to the cervical spine. And one of the reasons why it angers me deep down inside is if you're doing headstand properly, then the risk is pretty minimal. And it really takes a lot of strength. It also takes some flexibility as well in order to do a headstand. So the things that limit individuals from doing a headstand the most, I would say number one is fear. The fear of going upside down, which I definitely had that fear for a very long time. And if I'm perfectly honest with everyone, I still have it a little bit. Another limiting factor for individuals doing headstand is they don't have the strength. They don't have the strength in their shoulders and their upper back. They don't have the strength in their core as well. Another limiting factor as well is it takes a lot of flexibility from the hamstrings in order to safely lift up into a handstand. It's not a requirement. You can do it without that flexibility, but definitely for sure, if you have more mobile, more flexible hip joints and hamstrings, it's going to make it so much easier. And as we start to go through some of the drills, you will see why that is. Okay? So I have found that there's a couple poses, there's a couple exercises that will significantly increase your ability to do a headstand. And I guess you could call them drills that you could do, but if there's a way, if you have a regular yoga practice, if there's a way to incorporate this into your practice, then it's going to work out so much easier for you because you're going to be able to do it on a consistent daily basis. Drill something that you're doing outside of your practice, then you're less likely to do them, or they're going to be the first things you cut when you're in a hurry or in a rush. So if you're able to incorporate it into your yoga practice. Now maybe you're sitting here thinking, well, I'm only joining this workshop because I just thought doing a headstand would be really cool. And that is fine as well. Then you're going to want to focus on these drills and not so much the yoga practice because you don't have one. Okay. So I want you to keep in mind that it took me 3 years in order to do headstand, okay? And that is, I have a consistent yoga practice, so that was consistent daily practice. It took me 3 years. But here's the thing, I had no one, absolutely no one giving me specific instruction on how to do it. I honestly was just trying to figure it out myself. And I definitely was not doing it in a safe manner. I did a lot of somersaults out of headstand. There was the potential for me to injure myself, knock on wood. I did not. So the potential was there for injury, but over time, as I got stronger and as I worked through it, I became more and more efficient at doing headstand. And I started to understand the mechanics a little bit better, okay? And I started to realize that there's an easier way and there's a better way. And with proper instruction, doing a headstand is safe and it's very therapeutic. So there's a lot of amazing benefits to doing headstand. So one of those benefits is that once you're in a headstand and you're holding it for a period of time, it becomes very meditative. You really have to focus on your breathing and the breath. So because of that, it can help with things like anxiety, it can help with mood disorders, even depression, just because it's slowing down the body. All right. Again, it helps with lung capacity. In addition to that, there's all the physical benefits, right? So you're getting a lot of shoulder and upper core strengthening. You're getting a lot of abdominal strengthening and lower core strengthening as well. So there's a lot of strength benefits to doing headstand. And just physiologically, we're reversing the flow of blood. So our body has to work really hard with our lymphatic system and our cardiovascular system to pump the blood back up to our heart, and we're assisting that flow. So it gives our body a physiological break just for a short period of time. Okay. All right, so that goes over like the reasons why you might want to start to learn how to do headstand. So the reason why most people don't practice headstand, don't do headstand, is fear. They're fearful of hurting themselves and they haven't had the proper instructions. Now after this workshop, are you going to be able to, in this 30-minute period of time, are you going to be able to actually do a headstand? No, you're not, okay? Especially if you're a brand new beginner. Keep in mind, and this is what I want you to tell yourself, with my dedicated yoga practice, it took me 3 years in order to do headstand, in order to do it proficiently where I could be in a full yoga class and do it without a wall behind me, 3 years. Now, keep in mind, I didn't have the instruction I'm giving you now. I didn't have anybody breaking it down or showing me what to do. So with this instruction, hopefully it will definitely speed up that process, but you don't want to skip any of the steps, okay? This is not something that you rush. So with headstand, you really shouldn't like fling your body up into space. You really don't want to be jumping ever into headstand. That's like usually the one time I will yell at a yoga student is when I see them actually jump into their headstand. And I understand why they're doing that. They're trying to get the momentum just to turn upside down. It's really about increasing your strength. Okay, so there are 4 exercises, some of them are yoga poses that can significantly increase your ability to do a headstand. So the very first one is plank pose. And the great thing about plank pose is every time if you are a yogi, every time we do a sun salutation, it's part of our sun salutations. So this is something you can really easily incorporate into the practice, okay? So just so we're on the same page, and if you are sitting here watching me, roll out your mat. Let's actually put this into practice. Let's take a look at what I am talking about when I say plank. So this is basically setting ourselves up to lower down into a chaturanga, but the chaturanga is not the part I want to focus on. Okay, so we're going to come into our plank. So you want to ground down your hands into the floor, all right? You're not letting the belly drop. You're actually pulling in the ribs, pulling in the belly, so the bum lifts up a little bit, so not perfectly straight. And you want to shoot your heels back. Now take a look at your fingers. I want you to take your index knuckle and make sure you're grounding that down into the floor. And you're probably thinking, what the heck does this have to do with headstand? Just bear with me. So from here, there's an extra little step, and that step is to give it a little push up. So pushing up, puffing up the upper chest, and that is the area that I want us to work on, okay? So that little extra puffing up of this area back here engages a muscle called the serratus anterior, and it engages the lat. So these two muscles are very important to be strong in order to do a headstand. Okay, so learning how to engage and get that little poof into your upper back, you will see as we go more on with the instruction why this is an important drill for us to start doing. So where do you incorporate this? Now, if you already have a yoga practice, you're going to simply incorporate this into your sun salutation. So let me demonstrate really quick. If you want to work with me, I will show you exactly what I mean by this. Okay? So we're going to come to a standing position. So inhale, reach up. I know you can't see my head, but that's okay. And exhale, float all the way down. Release the head. Inhale, look forward. And on the exhale, step back to your high plank. Okay, so we're going to hold the plank, give it that extra poof up, and if you normally lower down into chaturanga, that's where you will do it here, and then into your upward facing dog. So with my daily yoga practice, I do multiple sun salutations a day. I do at least 5 sun salutation A's and at least 3 sun salutation B's, sometimes even more than that. So as you can imagine, if I'm doing this little extra push up, taking that pause here, I'm really starting to train my body how to start to engage the serratus and the lat, which is going to be important for us on how to learn how to do a headstand. Okay, so another exercise that's not really, I personally don't do this in my yoga practice, so this would be more like a drill you can start adding in, is doing a plank, but doing it on your forearms. Now, doing it on your forearms, I feel even carries over even more into headstand, okay? And that's because when we're setting up for headstand, we are on the forearms, okay? So again, so we're on the same page, let's all do a forearm plank. So you want to come down onto your forearms, and you do want to bring your hands together. Why I'm having you bring your hands together is because that's the setup you would do for a headstand. So we might as well get into that setup now, okay? And we're just going to shoot the legs back, okay? So we're going to pull in the belly so we're not perfectly straight. We're lifting up, and we're going to do the same thing I instructed you to do with that high plank. So we're going to give it that little extra puff up. So puffing the upper back up, really engaging the lats and the shoulders. And I would say try to hold this for a count of 10, maybe a count of 15. With time, set a timer. See if you can work up to 30 seconds. See if you can work your way up to a minute and maybe do 2 or 3 of those. Headstand is definitely an endurance pose, right? So in the Ashtanga practice, we hold it for a count of 15, and depending on your teacher, that could be 3 minutes, that could be 4 minutes. Some teachers even make you hold it for a total of 5 minutes. So by the end of that 5 minutes, your shoulders are so fatigued, they're very tired, and that's because you're working so hard. So building your plank here is really going to help you. So this is truly building the foundation, okay? So another pose that it could be a drill, but it's also something that's easy to incorporate into the yoga practice is a pose called dolphin pose. So I remember the first time I was in a vinyasa class, this was many years ago, and the teacher had me do dolphin pose and come down onto my forearms. I felt like I was going to collapse down on my face. So dolphin pose absolutely is a good indicator of whether or not you're going to have the strength to do a headstand. So if you can't do dolphin pose, that's where you want to start. You want to start building your strength into being able to hold dolphin pose, because you're holding your body weight on your forearms, okay? So what is dolphin pose? We're all going to come into downward facing dog. Hopefully you know what that is. So bringing the hips back, lengthening forward, And dolphin pose, all we do is keep the same position and drop down into the forearms. You want to look straight ahead. And from here, you want to try to give it that extra little puff up into that upper back I've been talking about. So keep the belly folded, puff up here, and just see if you can hold it there. Now, if you feel like you're gonna fall or collapse on your face, then again, that is a good indicator that this is where you need to work. You need to work on building up your strength with the drills first to get the shoulder strength, to get the upper body strength first before you can start working into headstand itself, okay? If that was easy for you, then quite honestly, then headstand shouldn't be too bad, all right? And there's one more, I would say this is a bonus pose to help you with learning how to do a headstand. And as you can see, it's all about stressing the serratus and this lat muscle because quite frankly, that's where the work is. When I'm holding headstand for like a nice long 5 minutes, that's where I'm feeling it. I'm not feeling it in my head. I'm not feeling it in my neck. I'm feeling it in my shoulders because I'm pushing as much as I can, okay? And that pose is basically the setup and eventually actually doing Lalasana because you're gonna get that rounding, you're gonna get that force through the serratus and the lats. So for those of you who have never heard of Lalasana, we're gonna, you wanna sit down on your hands or on your knees just like I am, and you wanna plant your hands definitely in front of the hips. You're not bringing them back here in front. And from here, you wanna pull your knees up towards your chest. It's okay if the feet stay on the floor, okay? And you're trying to get that nice round back. So a lot of strength here. You're like, wow, that was really hard. That's where you're gonna work. So once you're able to do that, you can play around with maybe lifting 1 foot off the floor. So this is not something that's gonna happen today, maybe not even this month, right? But with time and consistent daily practice, you really start to build the strength. So then once you're able, you wanna try to play and work with keeping that same shape of really pulling in the belly and rounding up through the upper back of maybe lifting 1 foot off the floor. So let me show you. You can go ahead and try along with me. So pulling the knees in, maybe lifting one leg, maybe switching, lifting the other leg, and coming back down, okay? And then eventually, with time, the ultimate goal is that you're able to maybe, with time, honestly, this is not a requirement for headstand, but actually putting the work into this will definitely help you. Eventually, with time, trying to do that lift up where you're lifting one leg, maybe the other leg, maybe eventually lifting both legs up, okay? And it really will help, again, round the upper back and pull in the belly. Okay, so a lot of work trying to just work into getting into headstand, right? Like we haven't even started the instruction on how to get there, okay? So they call headstand the king of all asanas. So they put a lot of emphasis on this pose, but does it really truly matter? Well, I mentioned that there's a lot of physiological benefits, there's a lot of health benefits. So I really feel it's a journey worthwhile, but if it's something that never happens, if it never occurs, I still think that yoga journey, it's worthwhile, and ultimately it doesn't matter. I think it's the work that you put into it really truly is what matters. And staying safe, making sure that you're taking care of yourself. Yoga is definitely not about hurting yourself, okay? So let's get into the proper setup, right? So you want to interlace your hands and you're going to place your forearms down onto the floor. So one of the mistakes people make, I'm going to come forward so you can just see my arms, is they come out too wide, okay? You want to make, it's almost at a perfect 45-degree angle, just like that. So if you're too narrow, that's also going to be problematic. You're not going to be able to balance. If you're too wide, you're not going to be able to stabilize. It's kind of like you want right that perfect 45-degree angle. And then you want to interlace your hands, but leave them loose, okay? Leave them loose. And if you're a female and you have long hair, you're going to have a little bit of an advantage, especially if your hair is in a bun, because that bun will help give you the perfect cradling of your hand. Now, if you don't have hair or you have short hair, you're still going to be able to do headstand. It's just, this is a little, it's like a tiny, maybe 0.5% percentage that will help you with doing your headstand, okay? So making sure that you're at that 45-degree angle, nice loose hands, okay? And where you're gonna place the head on the floor, it's not the forehead and it's not the top of the head. It's right past the hairline. So that's the spot you're actually gonna put down on the floor. Now, how much pressure do you put through the head? Well, quite frankly, when I'm doing headstand, it's next to none, which is why I feel it's safe for our cervical spine if it's done properly. Now, if you're feeling a lot of cervical compression, if you're feeling a lot of pressure to your head, then you need to go back to the drills, because the serratus and the lat aren't engaging enough to take the pressure off the head. So a lot of times when I'm doing headstand, there's no pressure on my neck. My head's not even on the floor. That's how much I'm pushing, okay? So that would be the ultimate goal. And then if there's no pressure on the head, the neck's going to be in a nice neutral position with no compression. It's a nice safe position, okay? So that's the setup for the hands and the arms. So that 45-degree angle, making sure you're not too wide, so definitely check that. And we're going to place the right past the hairline onto the floor. And from here, you want to come into almost like a down dog position. So this is where a lot of individuals will struggle with maybe hamstring flexibility. If you're struggling with your hamstring flexibility, then you want to just let your knees bend. Okay? And from here, you're going to pull in the belly and really push through the forearms. Let the knees bend, but start to walk the feet towards the face. And just hold it here. So a lot of work goes into this pose right here. Alright? So that would be stage 1. So just holding that setup and seeing if you can hang out there for 5 breaths, 10 breaths, maybe working up to 15 breaths. Keep in mind, like I said, when I do, like I did lead primary this morning, and it was a full 15 breath count, and the instructor counted very slow. So, you know, you want to be here for the duration. You really want to work your endurance. So you don't get into this and get out of it. You just want to hang out. And it's okay if you have a lot of burning sensation in the shoulders. It's okay if you're starting to fatigue out. The one thing that is not okay, you shouldn't be feeling compression through the cervical spine. You shouldn't be having any pain in the neck or the head region, okay? So that would definitely be a rule. If that starts to happen, go back to your drills that we just talked about. All right, so let's try the next step once you're able to get into that. So again, the 45-degree angle, nice loose hands, place the top of the head on the floor. Now push through the forearms and also push through your pinky fingers. Now the pinky fingers aren't moving because you're in this position, but think about trying to do this into the floor. It's called ulnar deviation. And pushing hard into the forearms, pushing down into those pinkies will automatically engage those muscles that I keep stressing, which is your lat and your serratus. Okay? So coming up into that down dog modification, pushing through, let the knees bend and start to walk in. And maybe see if you can just bend one leg and just hover right here. And then maybe see if you can bend the other leg. Keep pushing through with the arms and release. Okay? So if that was extremely challenging, that's where you're going to be for a while until that gets a little bit better. If you're like, okay, I can do that, I'm able to do that, then what's the next step? Okay, so next step, would be trying to raise one leg and keeping the other one bent. And why is that? It's going to be a little bit of a counterbalance for you. And it's going to give you that sensation of being upside down, what it actually feels like to be in headstand with out of fear. And why? Because you have that bent leg. If you fall, you're not going to fall over this way. You're going to fall right back to your feet. Okay? So let's see what that maybe feels like. Okay? So bring the forearms down, interlace the hands, put the head on the floor. Okay? Come on up. Walk your feet in towards your face as much as you can. It's okay if you need to bend your knees. Maybe lift one leg up. Pull that leg in towards the chest and see what it feels like to lift one leg. So we have that counterbalance. So keep pushing through the forearms. Now you can start to see what it feels like to be upside down. And release. So if you're on that stage and you're capable of doing that, then make sure you play with doing both sides, not just one side all the time. Make sure you try the other side as well. Okay, once you're able to do that and feel pretty good about it, then you might start to feel ready to start headstand. So what are my thoughts about using a wall? I'm fine with you being by a wall as your crutch, but try not to use the wall, if that makes sense. And get close to the wall so it could actually support you and help you if you start to lose or fall out of it. There's a lot of teachers that feel like you should never use the wall. I'm fine with using the wall as long as you're actually not using it, if that makes any sense. So if that makes you feel more comfortable just to get that sensation of being upside down, then by all means use it, but try not to rely on it. Meaning, try not to ever let the feet hit the wall. Okay, so let's try coming on into headstand. All right, so go ahead and place the head down. Make sure you're at that 45-degree angle. Push through the forearms. Put the little pinkies, push them down. Walk the feet in and see if the feet start to lift off the floor. Okay, if that feels good, you can start to reach up. Pull the lower ribs in, point the feet, push through the forearms, push through the pinkies. Really nice and strong here. And as you lower down, try to lower down with that same control. It's okay if it wasn't as perfect as that. It's okay if you weren't even capable, if you're still working on the one leg. But I want you to keep in mind and look at some things that I did, right? I didn't fling myself up. No. Okay? I didn't jump into headstand. Okay, so these are some big no-nos. I used my core strength to lift myself up. Okay, so I've had some students that they were very fearful of doing headstands, so they actually would just stay in the plank position. The plank position is when it's this position. Just do it really quickly, where you keep the legs bent right here. As long as you're doing all the things and you're not getting the compression through your neck, that is a great place just to stay and work, because that plank or that like pike position is way harder than headstand. So, and if you're going to fall right back on your feet, right? So it's not near as scary. So it's fine if you want to hang out there for a while until you start to maybe get a little bit braver and a little bit stronger, and you can start to work the legs up a little bit higher and a little bit higher. Now, there is a way to do lazy headstand, where you kind of just fling the body up and you have a banana shape. You're not pulling in the belly, you're not pushing through the arms, but the counterbalance of the head and the legs in space makes it kind of easy. So that is a really bad habit. That's eventually going to put a lot of pressure and compression through the cervical spine. So you just want to like nix that habit. If that's how you've been doing your headstand, like really work on powering through the forearms, really work on getting the pinky fingers down And go back to the foundation, go back to the work, go back to how you're properly supposed to be doing this, because this is going to ensure that you're going to be able to do headstand as long as you want and do it in a very safe, effective manner where it gives your body the most benefit. So there are other ways to do headstand. There is the tripod position where you plant the head and then you come up into this position, which a lot of individuals maybe feel more stable in that position. But here's the thing, you're going to get cervical compression. So it's fine to do a headstand like that, but just for a couple breaths. But to sustain it for a long period of time, that's too much pressure to the cervical spine. So that is why I always teach headstand Shirshasana the Ashtanga way, which is to have the fingers interlaced and to power through the forearms. That way there's not a lot of weight going through the head. Okay? So if anybody has any comments, any questions, please let me know. I will definitely, absolutely follow up with you. If there was something that I was unclear about, or there's something that you were hopeful that I would go over and I kind of didn't, please let me know, because I will definitely clarify and help you in whatever way that I can. This is definitely, I find, a very fun tutorial to teach people. So hopefully you found this helpful, and I will see you soon. Actually, I will see you back here in the Tree Life tomorrow. I'm teaching a chair yoga class. So, okay, have a great day and thank you.